Hello and welcome to Gar1onriva's Top 5. Today I'm going to be talking about my top 5 boss fights. Boss fights tend to represent the final test for a game, or they could just be interesting additions showing off different techniques, designs, gameplay mechanics. 3 things to remember. First of all, these are my personal opinions, so please don't tell me I'm wrong. These are limited to the ones that I have seen or played, and there will be spoilers for these bosses, obviously. So if you're worried, I have listed the games I talk about in the description in alphabetical order. Number 5. Phantom Manta from Super Mario Sunshine. While not a final boss, Phantom Manta is one of the most interesting in anything. It is a large paper-thin manta ray shadow-like thing that sort of appears out of the ocean and you have to fight it. It's also responsible for the hotel vanishing for some reason. Wherever it goes, it leaves a trail of electrified goop which you have to clean, and if you touch the goop you take damage. So as it sort of travels around, it leaves this wide trail and it becomes increasingly hard to step down. When you spray Phantom Manta, it splits in half, and it keeps splitting into smaller and smaller ones until there are a total of 64 to fight. What I like about this is it is never explained where this came from. And Phantom Manta is actually a reference to The Shining, which says about a giant paper-thin shadow-like manta ray that passes over the hotel, so it's almost certainly a reference to that. This is also one of the harder levels because, as I said, it just gets very tricky, and I just think this is a really cool boss. Number 4. Perfect Chaos from Sonic Adventure 1. This is the original final boss for me. I played Sonic Adventure back on the Dreamcast when it first came out, and I bloody loved it. At the end of it, you fight Chaos in his final form where he's made entirely of water and is about the size of a skyscraper. To fight him, you're in supersonic form, and you rush through the ruined city which is really flooded, and you use your speed to sort of spin around inside him and hit him in the face. Add to that the music is so damn cool in this battle, and I've played it so many times. I was interested to discover that the battle was remade in Sonic Generations, but I've not actually played that. They also redesigned it, because in the original one he was just made purely of water, whereas in the redesign and in the Sonic Adventure cinematic is sort of more physical, and the reason for that is the limitations of the Dreamcast hardware. While I'm not 100% on the redesign, that was clearly always the plan, and it does prove to be a very climactic end to a great game. Number 3. Your Nemesis from Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. While this one isn't actually a set enemy, you have to fight a captain that has appeared in your game before. You see, Shadow of Mordor uses a nemesis system where it tracks the Uruk captains that you can encounter and assassinate in the game. They all have names, titles, strengths, weaknesses, fears, and ambitions. In one of the last missions of the game, you have to fight a captain who sort of rallies the other Uruks against you. And the way this is chosen is the enemy you have fought the most in your game. In my game, my main nemesis was Mugrish the Heartless. And, I must have killed him like 4 or 5 times, but he kept coming back. And then seeing him at the end of the game gave it such a boost in drama. It was just a real amazing end to the game. They didn't need to add that bit, it would have been cool without it. But the fact that they decided to add that little addition, so you have to fight your main nemesis, it was just so good. And it goes some way to making each game more unique. I've got to say, I'm really looking forward to their expansion on the Nemesis system in Shadow of War. Number 2. Red from Pokemon Gen 2. After collecting the 8 Johto badges, you beat the Elite Four, and then you could go on and collect the 8 Kanto badges. After you have all 16 badges, you can then find Red atop Mount Silver in the centre of the map. His team is in the 70s and 80s in Gen 2, and then just in the 80s in the remakes. They sort of leveled them up each by 7. And this represents the final battle of Gen 2, like the cut Professor Oak fight was going to be in Gen 1, and I still don't know why they cut that. But this allows you to prove yourself as stronger than your Gen 1 counterpart, and this being added just makes it feel a lot like a proper sequel. You know, it is surpassing the original in every way. Fun fact, The remake team that Ash uses is actually the team he had in the Orange Islands League in the show. Whereas in the original Gen 2 games he had an Espeon that was replaced with a Lapras in the remakes. So while it is, more show accurate, it does sort of go against logical team composition because he then has Blastoise and Lapras. Just fun little fact there. It remains that this is one of the most satisfying Pokemon battles you will ever have. And finally, number 1. Sonic and Shadow Battle 2 from Sonic Adventure 2. I put in another Sonic game here because these have so many bosses that I remember by heart. I remember like their attack patterns, how to beat them, where in the game you battle them. I played Sonic Adventures 1 and 2 so much. In Sonic Adventure 2, there are 2 different stories that you play through, Hero and Dark, and in each you fight the counterpart characters from the other side. So Knuckles battles Rouge the Bat, Tails battles Eggman and Sonic against Shadow. In the second Sonic Shadow fight, it is sort of the final boss of the 2 stories before you unlock the final story, and it is the best. Plot-wise, you're both racing towards the Eclipse Cannon, one of you to stop it and the other one of you to fire it. This manifests in the form of an endless platform that you're running down, with it collapsing into nothingness behind you. The way this is done, you have to constantly run forward at full pelt while fighting the other character. And to be honest, this fight can be tricky even after playing it like 10 times as I have. Add to that it has some of the best boss music ever, and it is just my favourite boss battle of all time. And that is all for my list. Be sure to comment below with your favourite boss battles, as well as suggestions for future top or bottom 5s. This top 5 was voted for on my Patreon, so if you want to have your say for the next month's one, go there and pledge to that. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you later.